In the heart of Egypt, beneath the watchful eyes of gods and men, a sacred crown waited. It was not simply gold, it was destiny. The day had come when Egypt itself would decide its fate. But what began as a ceremony of light soon became a test of shadow, a trial that weighed not power, but the soul of a nation. This was the day Egypt stood before the gods, and no one left unchanged. Subscribe now to Sacred Nile Chronicles, where the forgotten mysteries of Egypt are brought back to life. Share, like, and join us as we step deeper into the War of the Crowns. The sacred gathering, the temple was filled with incense, chants rising like smoke to the heavens. Priests moved with solemn precision, carrying the crowns said to have been touched by the hand of Osiris himself. Nobles pressed in with anxious eyes. Servants clung to the shadows, knowing that history was being written before them. This was no ordinary coronation. This was a ritual where the gods themselves were expected to show their will. The crown was not to be seized, it was to be received. And in that receiving, Egypt would learn if it still walked in Ma'at, or if Isfet, chaos, had crept too far into its soul. The first candidate stepped forward. His robes glittered with jewels, his voice was strong. He spoke of lineage, of the blood of kings. But as his hands reached toward the crown, the chamber grew colder. Torches flickered, and when his fingers brushed the sacred metal, he recoiled as though burned. The priest looked away, the crowd gasped. The gods had refused him. For all his blood, for all his power, he was found unworthy. And in that moment, whispers spread like wildfire. If not him, then who? The shadow of doubt. Candidate after candidate approached. Men who had prepared their whole lives, men who wielded armies, wealth, and influence. Yet one by one, the crown turned them away. Some left trembling, others with rage in their eyes. The silence grew heavy. Priests glanced toward one another with unease. Was Egypt abandoned? Had the gods turned their backs? Or was this the true test, the stripping away of pride, until only the worthy remained? The unexpected moment. Then it happened. A servant stepped forward, not called, not invited. He was a man whose name history would not have recorded. A man of no royal line, no noble blood, no claim. Yet when the crown had been left untouched, when silence threatened to consume the temple, he stepped out from the shadows. Gasps filled the hall. Some shouted blasphemy, others fell silent in awe. Slowly he lifted the crown. And in that silence, the air changed. The torches steadied. The chamber seemed to breathe. And though no god spoke aloud, every soul in that room knew something profound had just taken place. The test of soul and shadow. But was this acceptance? Or was it a new test? The servant did not rise in triumph. Instead, his face bore the weight of fear. The crown was not light, it was heavy with the memory of every king who had fallen, every oath broken, every soul judged. Whispers filled the chamber. Had Egypt chosen, or had Egypt been condemned? The priests debated in hushed voices. Some claimed the gods had spoken in silence, that humility had been chosen over pride. Others claimed Egypt had fallen so far that only desperation remained. And in the eyes of that servant, carrying the weight of the crown, two forces clashed. Ma'at and Isfet, order and chaos, life and death. The crown had not ended the trial, it had only begun it, the verdict of the gods. Outside, the eclipse darkened the sky. Shadows stretched across the Nile. Birds fell silent. It was as though the heavens themselves were watching. Then came a sound, not of voice, but of stone shifting. The statue of Isis, watching from her pedestal, glistened with a single tear. A sign, a warning, a blessing. And the people fell to their knees, not in fear of the crown, but in awe of the gods who still watched Egypt closely. The fate of Egypt was no longer in the hands of kings or priests, it was in the hands of destiny itself. The day Egypt stood before the gods was not the end of the War of the Crowns. It was the beginning. A servant had carried the weight when all others failed. But what would it cost him? And what would it hand Egypt? For in choosing humility, the gods had set Egypt on a path where every shadow, every whisper, and every betrayal would be magnified. The crown was no longer a symbol of rule. It was a test of the soul itself. And the question still echoes across history. Did Egypt pass that test? Or has it been paying the price ever since? Subscribe to Sacred Nile Chronicles, like this video, and share your thoughts below. Was the servant truly chosen by the gods? Or was he only a pawn in a greater game?